Hey guys, hey girls, hello goblins. It's me, your boy here, Game-Goblin. And I'm back at Radcon again this year, and we're checking things out. And this year, we're like official press badges. So now that I can walk around with the camera freely, I can show you all the people.
Who loves this con? All right, hey everybody, we're the Blunt Force Gamers here at Radcon, our favorite convention of the year, and I'm sitting down with the Con Father.
Hello, how you doing out there in wherever we are world?
So, you want to tell the folks at home who may not know you or haven't been at the con why you are the Con Father?
Well, long time ago, in this very land, there was a couple of people, very good friends of mine, who were laying in bed one night and said, we need a convention in the Tri-Cities. Edgar and Norman Lincoln, the parents of Radcon. And being a good friend of them, they were going, Patrick, you're going to help us, right? And here I am. For the first decade or so, I, along with Norma, ran registration, and we had the fastest running registration system east of the Rockies. So we got a lot of stuff going there. I've been involved with the art show. I've been the art show cashier, help people buy their art and get their wonderful purdies back home. I've helped with a multiple of room parties, walked people through. So, hey, what are you into? What do you want to find? What do you want out of a convention? You know, telling them where to put their feedback, or just saying, hey, come on, let's go. There's something happened over here I think you're going to like. And ran into Matt and his crew a few years ago, and the name Confather appeared from that.
Excellent, excellent, because in fact I was told that story later. I wasn't partying with them that go round, but how he kept interrupting your story of the founding of the con and ended up giving you like $12 in coins.
Oh, that was the infamous Are You a Buffalo, which will take a whole interview by itself. So if you ever want the Buffalo story, look me up, or better yet, look up Edgar. He can tell it with relish.
More of a mustard guy myself.
Well, he's good. He'll make it tangy for you. That's a certain. Also been involved with various cons through the Pacific Northwest: MissCon, MossCon, SpokeCon, InCon. We did the only WesternCon inland that's ever happened, and our team name on that was the Maroons, because someone said, you're going to do a WesternCon in Spokane? What a bunch of Maroons. And it stuck.
There you go.
But we've been doing our best to bring fandom to the great parched areas of the inland Northwest, and even with today now, with more and more of, you could say, our stuff hitting the mainstream, there are just more closet fans out there that it's like, come on, you watch the movies, you play the games, come hang with the people.
Oh yeah, and that's a great thing. There are so many wonderful people who come to con. I mean, I wish I could have been around to check it out in the olden days, but I'm glad I'm here.
Oh, there's been so many changes. In the beginning, security was very simple. You kill it, you eat it. To which, at one time, at one of the conventions, we had a mighty Smurf hunter, and who indeed killed a Smurf, pulled it apart, and we all ate it.
But yeah, I mean, there's so many great things about this con besides just the camaraderie. I mean, we've got Star Wars people walking around, people with Star Trek, Firefly people, anime, all of it's coming together. I mean, was it like that in the beginning?
It was a little more tighter in the beginning because there wasn't so many different groups. But one of the things that we did when we created it was, one, we wanted a place for all of us, you know, back in the day, Star Trek, Star Wars, that was kind of it, you know, and all those weird gamer guys who never came out of their basement. And it just expanded from there. And as the convention itself expanded, we realized as a core group that we needed to show the public that it's not just a bunch of geeks. We've got rocket scientists, literal rocket scientists in our group. We've got nuclear scientists from out here at the plant in the Tri-Cities. We've got animal wildlife people, and we've incorporated that into our convention. We have tried to include not just gaming, but we bring in artist guests of honor, writers, We bring in science guest of honors, and now we even gotten to the point of media guests of honor. People are doing things like you. They're doing their own productions. It is so much easier than back in the day when it was a cassette recorder versus digital now, that you can do a live broadcast. We couldn't do that. I mean, that was not even dreamed of. And because of those changes, we're trying to bring those in to get people to realize out of fantasy comes science. And that was one of Gene Roddenberry's big things. Let's look at what Gene Roddenberry's done. The communicator is a thing. It's called a cell phone. The medical scanner is online right now. They have teleported particles. The only thing we haven't done yet is the warp drive, and we're working on it. So we have to have fantasy. There must be dreams, or there will be no science.
Yeah, because that's what inspires a lot of it. I mean, you can even look at parts of Star Trek where, like, the tablet, the computer that can pull up any information. Yeah,
the medical scanner. Basically, Dr. McCoy would have killed for this. Everybody's favorite. And, this little device carries more computing power than what we set men to the moon on. I mean, that was just a big fancy counting machine. This is so much beyond and allows you to do what we're doing right now. I mean, the technology in your camera is more than they had at NASA. And it's just, but if there's no dreamers, then we're resorted to only violent changes to make our progress. As anyone will tell you, the biggest advances in medicine are made during times of war because we've got to save those poor guys that put their nicks on the line. If we want to go into peace and not stagnate, we have to have imagination. And that's what this is all about, is keeping the mind active, keeping the mind open and going, well, I may not agree with you, but that is an interesting idea.
That's definitely one of the things I always find here is sitting to watch a couple of panels. Everyone's always like, well, just think about what you can do and work your best to achieve that. Like, I sat through a couple GM panels, and they were just like, when it comes down to it, find a way to make your story work, but don't hold on to it too hard. Just let your players go. It's kind of the same thing with a bunch of the other stuff. They want people to take what they're doing or what they're given and use it as best they can, but they want you to include other people to do kind of like teamwork is one of the big things I'm finding.
Right, and people have to realize there is no single path to any goal. The goal may not be exactly what you wanted in the beginning, but it may even be better. So if one way doesn't work, try another. Trial and error. Einstein, that's one of his favorite things. I've failed 999 times, but I tried again. And if I misquoted that, forgive me. But it was one of those big heads. But that's the whole thing. Failure is not the end. Failure means try something new. There's a lot of social activities. A lot of folks you see here don't socialize except in their group. This brings them out to see a little of the rest of the world. And realize, hey, the real world may suck, but it's not that terrible. So there are a lot of things that happen with any gathering. And like any group, how it used to be towns and village, the old quote, it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a person. And no one does good on isolation. Even the antisocial people every once in a while got to come out and get groceries. So there are various levels of interaction, but you got to interact. So there are so many things happening around here right now. You see your hardcore science people that would never, science fiction movie people that would never go to a token show. And then they watch this token cosplay and they go, hey, I bet I can make that thing work. And all of a sudden they're working with the token people and they're well, have you even seen the show? You got to at least watch it once. And they'll watch it and go, hey, this is not that bad. Or they may go, yeah, it's okay, not my cup of tea, but I still want to work on your thing.
And that's kind of the thing. And it all happens organically in that way. People just happenstance run into each other. Or you find your best friend. There are many people here that, besides your great self and our friend Madamus, plenty of people who come up and be like, hey, I haven't seen you in a year. It's great to see you. There's plenty of stuff where it's like people we never would have met in 1,000 years, but because of this con, we've become con buddies.
Right, and you've got those friends. And not only that, there's even more. There are people that have been married because of this con. I look back and I think, and I literally just was thinking this last night, what if Edgar and Norma never did this? And I go, well, I can tell you at least of 2 or 3 different marriages that would have never happened. I can tell you of lots of children that wouldn't have had opportunities that they did because they would have never been.
Oh, yeah.
And what would we have lost from those children? Because those are children of people with open minds. Granted, fandom's not perfect. Not everybody in fandom is totally accepting. They're just like everybody else. They have their own prejudice and narrow-mindedness. But we're willing, at least, to look at the other person and go, that might work.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Any final closing words for anyone who hasn't been to this con but watches our videos?
Definitely find a con in your area. Just Google science fiction convention. You'll find something close. They're all over the place. Give one a try. $40, $50. You'll pay that much to go out to dinner. You get a whole weekend out of one of these for that. So give it a try.
All right, cool. Well, thank you, Con Father. And
You're welcome.
Great to see you later when we go partying.
All right.
All right, everybody. Blunt Force Gamers coming at you.
Have a good one.
Hello, my goblins and goblinettes. It's me, your boy here, Game-Goblin, and we are with one of the guests of honor here at Radcon.
Hi.
Is it microphone work? Microphone skills.
Is that how that works?
How are you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. There's a lot of snow outside, but it's nice and toasty warm in here, so that's good.
Enjoying the con, enjoying the fans?
Very much so. Everybody has been so wonderful. It's my first year at Radcon,
Right on.
and so it was really nice to get a chance to come out here and meet some of the folks that don't get a chance to get over into the valley and come to some of the gaming conventions over there. So, yeah, it's been fantastic.
Right on. So, for our audience,
Yes.
you're the guest of honor, but our audience needs to know what you're the guest of honor for.
Okay, I am, Radcon invited me out to be the writer guest of honor. I have, for the last 15 years or so, I've written for the role-playing game industry, as well as writing novels and short stories, nonfiction essays about gaming, gender in gaming, inclusion, all that kind of thing. So that's why they invited me out. Also, I'm really nice.
Also, she's really nice. Always a bonus. So, what was the hardest thing you had to write?
Oh gosh, wow. For me, the hardest thing for any project is having to learn new mechanics. I'm very much about the storytelling aspect of role-playing games, so learning the nuts and bolts about not when you roll what die, but what that means to the game and how much of an impact different modifiers make. That's always the most difficult part for me, because you never know what combinations will come later along the line. Something can look like a really straightforward formula, but then you didn't take into consideration this item or this power that affects that. So it can be really complicated.
Sounds very complicated. So, when you're writing your stuff, what is the first thing that comes to mind when somebody said, one of your clients, we'll say White Wolf Industries,
Okay.
we'll say White Wolf wants you to write something. Where do you start your foundation at? What's the first move you make when they're like, we want a project that involves people who can fly and they do it winglessly?
Fantastic. Well, what I would do then is check in, make sure that I really understand the setting and what has already been built. Because one of the most important parts about working with most role-playing games is you're working with established settings, and you have to be true to those. I always say that I don't write my own game, I write your game. The games that I write don't belong to me. They belong to the people that play them. I may work for a month or 2 months or 3 months on a project, but there's people out there who have been playing these games for years and years and years, and you have to be true to what they've come to expect. So you have to understand the setting and the canon establishment, and then how far you can deviate from that to give them something new and positive, but not take away the legitimacy of what they've invested all that time and energy and effort into playing within.
All right. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you there's a lot of dogs here at Radcon.
Wonderful.
It is. No, I'm sure that when you go to cons, there's one question you hope that somebody asks you,
Okay.
but nobody does ask you.
Okay.
So I'm asking that question. What is it that you want to convey to the audience right now? What question do you want somebody here to ask you about your career?
Wow. Oh, goodness. I love to talk about how we can use gaming as a way to build community, And so I think that the things that I like to talk about or that I hope people ask me about are, how can I make my gaming group more positive? How can I make it have a bigger impact on the world around us? How can I invite new people in and make them welcome? How can I expand those borders of my my gaming table out to include new people, whether that's first-time gamers, whether that's women or gender queer folk who are maybe not feeling as included at the table.
What about goblins?
Goblins. I'm all for goblins at the gaming table.
Okay.
Very much so.
I just had to touch base on that.
Yeah,
one.
you're always inclusive. Exactly. And then also how to be a more positive part of the gaming community, because a lot of us, we play our games at our tables in our homes, but we're all still part of this gaming community, whether that's through online interactions, whether that's through coming to conventions and events like this, whether that's just where we're putting our support and our financial, where we're buying things. All those things have impacts, and I love to help people, help encourage people to make those impacts as positive as they possibly can, because games are good.
Games are good. Games are good. All right, I think we got our 3 questions down. She is a very busy woman this weekend. In fact, she's got to be somewhere about 5 minutes ago.
I do. I've got my keynote speech coming up, and I'm hoping people aren't lining up yet, so I'm really looking forward to that. Thank you for taking the time to talk with me.
Thank you for taking the time to talk with us, and you will find more Radcon videos on our YouTube site. Thank you much.
Plenty of other cosplayers here that are awesome as well, but thank you guys for taking the time out to talk to us.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking to us, man. We love your guys' costumes.
We do.
All right.
If I had Hall Awards, I'd give them to you.
Peace.
Check this guy out. Check him out. Look at that. Full legit, head to toe, straight up. No cell phones. He is legit 1969 right there. Green Arrow.
I don't know about 1969, maybe 2000 something.
Oh. Sorry. Human years get me.
No, more 5th or 6th season.
Ah, right on, right on. And over here, ba-ba-bam. And head to toe, head to toe, head to toe, head to toe. And bada boom, bada bing, we've got Supergirl. So, I told you I'd get you roped in a corner. And I did.
That did happen.
It did happen. So, you guys want to explain your outfits, like what inspired them?
I'm gonna let you start because you're the one that got us into DC. Yeah. Effectively.
Okay, yeah, because I didn't.
You did Supergirl before I did this.
I did Supergirl first. Although I actually bought this one just because I didn't quite have the time to make everything that I want to make, so.
Well, it happens.
Did the shortcut of buying it, but I'll eventually piecemeal build my own pieces. So.
Sweet.
Yeah, as soon as CW announced, was it CW or was it
CBS.
CBS had announced the Supergirl series, I was raring to watch that, and I've enjoyed it since the first episode, so.
You do know the rule, right? No capes?
That's Edna Mode's rule, but you see capes, that it helps with the aerodynamics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Check this guy out, man. Look at that. This is some hardcore costuming going on here.
So my costume came out as a response to Leanna Cosplay's costume. And she had a Supergirl. I didn't have anything to go with it. We tried doing at least one time before the kind of techno genius guy from the first season. And unless I was with her, it was, hey, it's a guy in really nice clothes. So I heard about a cosplayer who was selling his Arrow outfit. And I reached out to him, said, hey, I'd like to talk to you about this. Went over, did a test fit. It fit perfectly, as you can see. And $400 later, I have an Arrow outfit with a bow and a quiver, and actually complement this one very well.
There you guys go.
Crossover episode.
all you need is Flash and Batman, and you're set.
We don't need Batman. Flash. Flash, and then once we have Flash, we can put any character we want with us. We just use Flash to get to the other universes. But yeah, plenty of other cosplayers here that are awesome as well. But thank you guys for taking the time out to talk to us.
Thank you.
Thank you for talking to us, man. We love your guys' costumes.
Oh yeah! It is I, Q. Game-Goblin's not here right now because the serious topic we're going to go over at this Radcon, he's a little too willy-nilly about such things. So we're going to actually discuss role-playing and the benefits it has with people who have some sort of disability or other problems. In Bebo's case here, our special guest, what was it again? It was...
I have PTSD, and my therapist used Dungeons and Dragons characters to help me through emotional freedom therapy to overcome some of these things and empower me in my daily life.
See, so it's been used with PTSD. Learning disabilities, like I was reading one report not too long ago, about 6 months ago, a group of children, they were not interpersonal. They didn't have the social skills, really.
Yeah, there was actually a game recently on Kickstarter called A+, that was specifically designed to help autistic kids develop social skills.
Exactly. So the study I read was not with the high-functioning autistics, but it was with more Down syndrome type scenario. Mm-hmm. But it's still, yeah, it helped out.
And it doesn't really matter what you are. Humans learn through play.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Always.
So, in your words, before and after the PTSD kicked in, how was the change? When did you know it was helping?
I knew it was helping when I could, rather than melting down because I'm having trouble with something, I was able to call upon, like my rogue character that I had built and basically ask her for help and not really take on her persona, maybe a little bit, but harness the energy that my rogue kind of emitted, some of the character traits that I knew I possessed, but I didn't always have the confidence to back up.
Oh, okay.
And so these 4 characters that I created, which were a bard, a sorcerer, a paladin, and a rogue, really helped empower me in my daily life. So when I came to a situation where I felt like I couldn't move forward, I could call upon them for help. And then it wasn't me that was dealing with the problem, it was them.
So, just out of curiosity, these 4 characters, let's say the bard. Bards are usually whimsical. Mm-hmm. So did you encounter something that needed kind of a whimsical personality to help push you through something?
Yes, definitely. So, I am a YouTuber.
Yeah.
So that was definitely something that came into play. I need to be charismatic. I need to be interesting. I need to be magical.
Okay, so each class kind of had their own personality, and when you needed traits of that, you just kind of drew on that kind of like, Legos for the soul.
Yes,
okay.
Definitely.
All right. So everybody has an epic story. Let's get a little lighthearted here for a moment. Do you have an epic story in-game where something just happened that was so awesome?
Oh, an in-game story.
In-game story. Epic. Did you punch a dragon in the snoot and, just get snot on your hand or something funny or what?
One time in 13th Age, there was a badger that, technically it was a human at one point, but he was turned into a badger. And he was lost inside of a forest and a gigantic, burial mound that he needed to get out of. And my one special trait was that I built armor for tiny woodland creatures out of wood and stone. So I made him a little tiny rock hat, put it on him, and when we got out, he got smashed by something, and the rock was the only thing that saved him.
Folks, do never put armor on a badger. That's in game. It's okay. In game.
Don't try this at home.
Seriously, badgers are scary enough without armor.
This one was a person stuck inside of a badger's body. It was a little bit different.
Okay, well, that's still pretty epic. So, what would you advise to someone? Mm-hmm. So back on topic, we can full circle here. Mm-hmm. If somebody was going through a similar situation now, what would you advise them to do? Would it be like the same course of action, or did you learn something along the path and you're like, hey, maybe you start here instead of where I started?
It depends on their level of comfort when it comes to therapy and seeking out professional help, and more importantly, like their privileges, whether or not they have the ability to access healthcare. I didn't have healthcare for like the last year of my life, and that was really challenging. I haven't been able to do my therapy, and that was a little bit difficult. And I know that lots of people still don't have access to healthcare, especially in America. So I would say, find a group that is good for you and talk to your GM. Lots of GMs are more than happy to help guide your journey and help you work through these issues. Also, implement systems of protection in your role-playing games. For example, either the X card or red, yellow, green light, which basically means that people can tap yellow light if they're starting to get uncomfortable, or red light if it just needs to stop. And talk about your lines and veils in role-playing. Lines and veils, what that is it means that if there's a hard line for something that you don't think that you can handle during a role-playing game, everybody writes down their hard line. So if you can't handle like violence against children or something else that might be really challenging for you to deal with, you write that down, and the whole group knows ahead of time that this is a no-go zone.
Especially when you're dealing with traumatic syndromes and PTSD.
Right.
You don't want to cross these lines at all, ever.
Yes.
Even in fantasy.
Exactly. And sometimes there's veils. And what veils are is that means that if you are uncomfortable with sexuality, for example, and you don't want anything to become sexual at all, it just says like, oh, they kiss, and then it fades to black.
Fade to black, kids.
Cut scene.
It works. Trust me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anything do you want to add to this topic? Because it is a very serious topic, and I don't think we cover all the bases, but...
We didn't cover everything, but
yeah,
it's very broad.
One
thing
That's
that I
the
will
problem
say...
I'm having.
If you can get involved in your local community to help other people use gaming as in a medicinal purpose, I would say definitely get involved with your local libraries to help make games more accessible to other people, especially people that are like financially desperate and disparate. And then disparate. Yeah.
Okay.
And then also retirement homes. My grandma is 81 years old, and she plays hardcore Euro games. She plays Robinson Crusoe.
Nice.
She played through every single scenario of Robinson Crusoe. She's played Spirit Island, Mice and Mystics, and she loves these games. And so you can get involved in your local community and really help other people, especially elderly people, keep their mind sharp through play and education. Humans learn 100 times faster when they're playing something and engaging in it, especially engaging with other people. And yeah, you can really make a difference in your community if you get involved in your local libraries, after school programs, or retirement homes.
So here we have proof that gaming is actually good for mental health and for those who need help.
Yeah,
True. And look, she's smiling. She's happy. It works. Testament. So we're going to go over this actually in a web series in the future. We're going to talk about gaming for the elderly and gaming for those who are in need of playtime to readjust to a social atmosphere. So we'll get on that later, but for the rest of Radcon, we're all going to go enjoy. Game-Goblin out.
I'm Bebo. Thanks for watching.
All right, what's up, Blunt Force Gamers fans and Radcon people? I'm sitting here with another guest of honor. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Steve Jackson.
That's why I love this con. All right.
What? All of my games are you roll 2d6, and if you roll 11 or higher, you win. Actually, it's lower than that. It's you roll 7 or less, you win. All of my games.
Indeed.
Yes. You have no idea what to do now.
Nope.
You're completely lost.
Do we need our technical difficulties picture up?
I have 2 movies named after me.
There you go, Mr. John Wick.
Yeah, they're all in their biographies.
Yep, they just had to change the names and places to protect everyone else.
Well, no, not really. I mean, they did make dramatic changes for dramatic purposes. But they were Lithuanian gangsters, not Russian gangsters. Right? No, and it was a pencil. It was a pencil, not a pen. Otherwise, it's all true. Oh, and the dog was a corgi. But it's all true.
Figured to be more of a pug guy.
No. Well, pugs are great, but I No, it was a corgi.
Right on. So we're big on gaming on our podcast. Do you just want to go over a few of the games you've really been a part of, just to go give people an idea who may not know you?
Yeah, I cut my teeth on the Legend of the Five Rings card game, the original from 1995. I was in charge of world building and story and character design, and I designed the first L5R storyline, the Clan War, and designed the Scorpion Coup.
Okay.
And then I made with Jennifer Bradbury. I made a game called Seventh Sea, which is Magic Pirates. Who doesn't like Magic Pirates? And Magic Musketeers and Magic Swashbuckling. And then after that, I left AEG and I worked on independent games. And I wrote a column for Pyramid Magazine called Play Dirty, which was unorthodox game mastering advice, and which has been collected into 2 volumes. And since then, I've made about 24 role-playing games.
Okay, cool. So we like a lot of different game styles, as I'd mentioned to you before. World of Darkness is what the Game-Goblin started me on.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Don't worry, it was just Vampire the Masquerade.
Oh, I'm even more sorry.
It was a hybrid between 1 and 2? Yeah, it was a hybrid between 1 and 2.
Between, like, Masquerade and Requiem?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Okay.
It sinks in my mind better as 1 and 2, because every time I try to go like the titles, I'm like, oh, I'm such a noob.
You are a noob.
Yes.
You don't know better. You don't know that, you shouldn't be buying, collector's editions of Dungeons and Dragons.
Especially 5e.
Yeah, 5e is by far the best iteration of Dungeons and Dragons because it's actually a role-playing game. The previous editions were not.
Yeah,
they were highly complicated board games.
Yeah, I mean, I personally love ROLE playing, because I know a lot of people go...
Then why are you playing Dungeons and Dragons?
Because my buddy had an open spot in a game and I've been GMing for 2 years.
You could be running Over the Edge. You ever heard of Over the Edge?
I have not.
Over the Edge is a brilliant role-playing game. It's designed by Jonathan Tweet and also Robin Laws, and it's an island. There's this island that has a city on it called The Edge, and the island is Alamara. And the gimmick is Jonathan Tweet wanted to create a setting where someone could come to him with the most outlandish character concept, and he could not say the phrase, "That does not fit the setting." So, like, for example, the first character I made was a magic PI. It was a magic private detective who's looking for a missing kid, right, on the island. And so I had very, very low, more like magical realism than fancy and magic, stuff. And that fits the setting. But also fits the setting is the Conehead. The Conehead is a sentient cup of coffee.
Okay.
I kid you not. Then there's another character who is from the future, and he's been sent to the past to stop 7 things from happening.
Interesting.
And the way that he operates as a character is that they sent back his consciousness in an item that everyone would pick up. It's a television remote control. And when you pick up the television remote control, you become possessed by the character by the character who's supposed to stop 7 things from happening. There's also Andy, the Andalusian dog. He's a dog who's been alive for thousands of years, and he wanders around. There's also there's an organization called the Cut-Ups, which is based on the Cut-Ups method that Burroughs popularized, where they have a machine that has a bin on the top of it, and you take cuts from magazines and newspapers and books, provocative words, and you throw them all into the bin, and you pull the lever, and it redefines reality based on what's in the bin.
That is awesome.
So, and the game system itself, because it's a game of paranoid conspiracy, the game system that's presented to the players is a lie, and the actual system is in the Game Master chapter.
Okay.
It's brilliant. You should be playing that because you like role-playing rather than I kill it with my sword and then I go through its pockets so I can get spare change.
Oh, yeah. One of the things, actually, because it was Game-Goblin's retirement game, because he's quit GMing now. So he passes a lot of it on to me. But we did a first for him, well, a couple of them, but the most notable was a player character died. And instead of taking all of his stuff and just leaving his body in a ditch, we actually gave him a funeral. His flesh was removed from the bones by my druid. And then we gathered up all his belongings and his bones, wrapped them in a cloth, and then we're ready to ship them home. And then next session it was like, no, actually he wouldn't have died because of this rule here.
So the fact that you bring that up as an exception rather than the rule, that you guys treated him with respect and dignity rather than leaving him in a ditch and just taking his stuff. The fact that that's an exception rather than a rule demonstrates that the rule in D&D is if your character dies, we take all your stuff and leave your body in a ditch. Because everybody's alignment in Dungeons & Dragons is chaotic me.
Yeah.
That is everybody's alignment, from paladins to assassins. Everybody's alignment is what's in it for me. What do I get out of this? Because that's what the game rewards you for doing.
Yeah.
That's the morality of the game.
Which is why I like other games like attention span games. We did stuff with them last year. They have Laser Metal and D&Dizzle. I love those two because it's a D&Dizzle is high fantasy role playing. It's a 2d6 system, it's a d6 system. You can use as many as your stat says, and it's all about like being gangster rappers in like high fantasy Middle Ages.
That's
setting.
pretty cool.
You should check them out.
That's
I highly like it. It's a pocket RPG. It's a real small book.
Oh yeah.
And you just pick it up and go. The other one, Laser Metal, is you're on a planet where the entire economy is based on metal bands. So you can be all kinds of like wicked stuff, and your group forms a band. So one of the things is you get your band name, and then you come up with a list of like song titles. So as you're fighting, you're just belting out these songs to destroy your enemy.
I did a game called Neverland a long time ago that I never published. I just ran it for friends because it at the time I was like, nah. And I may publish it one day, but essentially it's the Jim Steinman role-playing game. Jim Steinman is the songwriter who writes all of Meatloaf's material. So it's all epic, Wagnerian, let's have sex in the back of a car, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yes.
And that's what the whole game is about. And part of the mechanic is that you have a song. And so we're playing the music in the background, and you pick one of the Jim Steinman songs, and when it comes up, all of your stats like go up through the roof because it's your song, and it dictates how people choose to have spotlight moments in the game. It's like, okay, whose spotlight moment is it? Well, it's Benny's turn because it's his song, so it's and all that. So, yeah, it's I mean, I think 2 weeks ago, I published a game called 3x5, which is a role-playing game that fit on a 3x5 index card. And because what else do you really need? Yeah. What else do you really need? You need falling damage? Really? Yeah. You need falling damage? You need how much damage you take when you're on fire? You're on fire! Yeah. That's like the asshole who goes, okay, the dragon steps on you. And he goes, how much damage do I take? Can I make an armor saving throw? No, the dragon fucking sat on you, motherfucker. You're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're on fire. Oh, yeah? You're on fire. Well, the cleric can heal me. Fuck the cleric. There are no clerics in this game. No clerics. You try playing D&D with no clerics and see what happens. Try it. See what happens. No clerics, no magic healing, none of that bullshit. And the only hit points you get are your starting hit points. That's it. That's it. The wizard fires a level 10 fireball at you. You're fucking dead, motherfucker. That's it. It's over for you. You know what happens? People start talking to each other. They go, oh, hey, you got swords and spells, and I got swords and spells, and I got 6 hit points, and I don't know how many you got, but it can't be much more than that. Maybe we should talk about this before we start, throwing down.
Before you become a murder hobo.
Yeah, murder. Well, when the game rewards murder hobo behavior, it's the old Miyagi rule, Mr. Miyagi from Karate Kid. Teachers say there's no such thing as a bad student. It's just a bad teacher. Teachers say, student do. Right? It's the same thing with games. Yeah. There's no such thing as bad players, just bad games. The game says, this is what we're going to reward you for. Yeah. So the players do that.
Well, I found a way around that. In my Living World homebrew campaign, the players are basically federal agents. They're guild members. The guild is part of the government, and that's where all the adventuring classes come from. Okay. So I had a guy. They turned in a halfling who was doing some bad stuff. The other one got away. The guy proceeded to ransack the house and take everything he could. And when he got back and tried to sell it, that's when I brought in the reprimand of in-game stuff. Where it's like, no, you're a federal agent. You can't be doing this. So he ended up walking away from the game due to other stuff. But it was kind of, in my game, if you mess up and you get noticed because you're representing, a government agency, it starts reflecting bad on you. So your higher ups start being harder on you. So it's
do you have a mechanic for that?
I kind of just end up BSing it, but I have it proportional. Like a guy got drunk.
Oh, no. Stop there. Okay. So when I do game design seminars, I ask people, what's your game about? And they'll say something like, oh, well, it's a post-apocalyptic, like you were saying. My game is we're playing federal agents in a fantasy world, and blah, blah, blah. I said, no, okay, stop. That's not what your game is about. That's what you do in the game.
Yeah.
Right? What's your game about? And then I throw the L5R example. So in Legend of the Five Rings, you're playing samurai who are under a daimyo, and you're supposed to do what the daimyo says.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not what the game is about. The game is about honor. So there's an honor mechanic.
Yeah.
And it, based on the value of your honor, the higher your honor, the more of a badass you are. So when you do what you are told, you become a badass. When you disobey, your honor goes down, and you become less of a badass because your honor is low, right?
Okay.
So that's what the game is about. It's about honor, and that's why there's an honor mechanic. Now let's think about your federal agent dudes, right? So it sounds like the game is about pretty much kind of like the same thing. It's about you have a job.
Yeah.
And if you don't do your job, your superiors are going to go, why aren't you doing your job? All right. So what if there's a mechanic that when you don't do your job, whether anybody sees it or not, because you never know, right? You have a stat, let's call it, I mean, you could call it loyalty, you could call it
renowned,
or whatever you want to call it. There's actually a word for it, and I can't put my finger on it. Maybe I will. And whenever you don't do what you're supposed to, you have a code of ethics for your dudes, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you violate one of these codes of ethics, you get a point. And the GM rolls a die. Let's say it's a D6. And if it rolls equal to or lesser than that number, they've noticed.
Okay.
Right? So now you have a mechanic. Because the key thing about role-playing games is that if it's not on the character sheet, it's not real.
Yeah.
Right? If you have something in your game, like how do I know as a player when I'm in trouble? Because I want to know if I'm in trouble. Because that makes story, right? That makes story. So, and also creates tension. It creates a tension with the player where he goes, I'm in a situation where I have to disobey my orders or I violate my own morality.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? I'm going to violate my orders. And you go, take a point and roll a d6. Right? And now the rule means something. It's not like alignment, which doesn't mean shit. Right? Alignment has no interaction with any other mechanic in the game. And it means nothing. If I'm lawful good and I go around murdering people in the throat, what's the GM going to do? Change my alignment to chaotic evil? So what? I don't care. There's no mechanic. There's nothing. Nothing happens to me. It's not a real mechanic.
Yeah.
So get rid of the alignment mechanic on your character sheet because it means nothing, and replace it with this new mechanic that will go, all right, every time that you disobey, you get a point, and you roll a d6 or whatever, you d10, whatever you want to do. And then they notice. And now, not only is it just you fucking with them, but now you can point at the mechanic and go, look, you did this thing. You have given me permission to fuck with you.
Yeah.
And it's not just you going arbitrarily, right?
Right.
And and suddenly you've changed how Pathfinder or D&D works by creating an actual morality mechanic that addresses player behavior.
Okay, because the way I was doing
that is my gift to you.
Excellent. Because what I did, because the first one was blatantly obvious, because he tried to sell to their point of contact for their higher ups. It's a retired member of the guilds, but she runs an inn, and she basically runs it partially funded by the guilds. So he tried to sell her all this contraband. He didn't have a bill of sale. He didn't have any of the paperwork, so it was in-game stuff that would legit work. So all of that stuff had to be destroyed, and then he got reprimanded. And because he left, I was like, all right, so what happened was he's gone back to be checked on by the higher-ups,
Yeah.
But I brought in a new character, and then they went off, and one of my characters was playing a drunken fighter. He would get drunk every time they're in an inn. And it became detrimental to game. So when he screwed up and I rolled the dice to see what happened, he said he crawled into the wagon and took off all his armor and slept. I rolled it because he wasn't sure which wagon he was in. He was so drunk. So I rolled it, and he was in the wrong wagon, got arrested, and because they know he's an agent, because he has his little paper, get caught with your badge kind of thing, it was reported. So when it wasn't like immediate stuff, but when he got back, he was reprimanded about drinking. So whenever he's in the inn, he's not allowed to drink.
Yeah, you've added a real. So the thing about game design is always you want to force the players into situations where they have to make choices that they don't want to make. Mm-hmm. Right? And I like using Halo. The first Halo game is a really great example. It's a really simple example that everybody understands. So before the first Halo game, if you play games like Doom, right, you're a Swiss Army knife of death, and you have the knife and the pistol and the sniper rifle and the shotgun and the submachine gun and the BFG and the rocket launcher and the grenade. You got all this stuff, and if you just switch out, you hit F1 and I go to whatever. Right? But with Halo, you can carry 2 guns, and that's it. That's all you get. So you're walking around the corridor, and you know that you're coming up on the Covenant, and you have the Needler, which is not great, but hey, it's my
favorite.
It's also my favorite. So I love the fact that it just makes everything explode. But you got the Needler and the rocket launcher, and you're coming up on the Covenant, and you come across the pistol, right? And you're like, oh man, that is the best gun in the game. But you can even make a more difficult decision. It's like you have the shotgun or you have the pistol and you have the rocket launcher, but you come across the shotgun and you're about to meet the Covenant or the Flood.
Yeah.
And you're like, pistol doesn't do crap against the Flood, doesn't but the shotgun does. But the pistol is the best gun in the game.
Unlimited ammo.
Yeah, and now you are stuck with a choice that you don't want to make. That's game design. Game design is putting players in decisions. Board games, card games, video games, putting them in a spot where they have to make choices, and they're all suboptimal. Mm-hmm. And so then that's when things come out. And role playing games are no different.
Yeah.
Like everything on somebody's character sheet is irrelevant when you get caught in your game, caught doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. You let the bad guy go. Because the bad guy, as you find out, is not the bad guy.
Yeah.
And you're like, damn, okay, I'm going to let the bad guy go, even though I know he's not the bad guy, because they're going to murder him in the face if I don't. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm going to let him go. Fuck. Okay. Now how can your character sheet save you when you're in a dark room with a little circle of guys who are going, why did you do that? Mm-hmm. What, are you going to throw a fireball at them? What, are you going to use your 10-foot pole? What are you going to do, right? There's nothing to do. And that's when real game happens. That's when people have to engage not with their character sheet, but with their character. Yeah. And now they're going, all right, what do I do? And if you can get people to go through their character sheet into their character, that's when a role-playing game happens.
Yeah, which is something I try to put forth, because I do a few encounters, but there have been a couple of sessions where you've had no encounters. It's all just been them role-playing their characters, which my new group, my C team, does really well. My B team does it too, but in a different aspect, because a lot of that is dice rolling, because they're level 8, so I'm just like, throw stuff at you.
Yeah, but, I mean, the problem is that D&D doesn't handle that well.
Yeah. Because
all of its mechanics are built for resolving conflict or disagreement with violence. Mm-hmm. Everything. Like the new D&D 5th edition Thief. Oh. I was going to play... Thief is my favorite character. Whenever I play D&D, I play a thief. And I look at it and I said, this is just a combat monster. Mm-hmm. That's all it is. Every single thing is how much damage you can do. How am I different than a fighter? I'm a fighter who backstabs.
Yeah.
Great. But, I mean, the whole idea, like, one of my best examples is my friend Rob Justice was running Suicide Squad. Mm-hmm. And so we're all Suicide Squad guys. And our job, we've done a couple of jobs, and so that we all get to know each other, and we've got chemistry now and we figured out our own characters, mm-hmm. right? And so the first real mission shows up, and Amanda Waller shows up, and she goes, "I want you to go to Gotham and kill the Batman." And we all just kind of sit there for a second, and I go, "Can I have a suitcase nuke?" And my friend Mike goes, "Whoa! Stop right there! Stop! No!" And I was like, "Do you want to kill the Batman or not?" Because we'll just take a suitcase nuke, we'll drop it in the middle of Gotham Central. No more Batman. Yeah. We're done. And he goes, Mike says, tell me that Amanda Waller says no. She says, no. She says, yes, give me 5 minutes. And the rest of the conversation, the whole game, was us discussing whether or not, well, actually, the first half of the game is whether or not we should kill the Batman. Or how we were going to kill the Batman. And then the second one was like, how do we get out of here?
Yeah.
because they want us to kill the bat. Like that, you want to talk about a suicide mission? That is a suicide mission. Yeah. Right. So and that was the most fun I had in a role playing game in a long time. Was just us playing our characters, not talking about what we could do, but what we should or should not do. Mm-hmm. And that's fantastic.
You know, sir, it's been a pleasure to talk with you about this stuff. I really feel like I understand what you're trying to give me here for stuff, and I'm going to implement it.
Yay!
So,
you should read my Play Dirty books.
I will get a hold of them here shortly. Tomorrow is my day to do spending. And
awesome.
To come. So, all right. Thank you, everybody. Again, This is Mr. John Wick. We'll put all your information at the bottom of this video, and everybody can check you out. Cool. Peace.
Bye.
Bye-bye.